Hello and welcome back to Bane of Morgoth Miniatures. Today I wanted to kind of touch base and go over what we completed last session. And that's all the fur. As you can see, we got quite the different amount of stripes going on with this boy. I got in the groove last week and accidentally just kept going because that's what I'm used to doing when I paint, and finished off his nose. Nothing terribly crazy there. Just started with a darker pink color, moved up to like a more fleshy tone into a very pale fleshy tone for the high highlight on the nose. Other than that, I also did a little bit of around the eyes. If you look up pictures of Bengal tigers, you'll see they have a very similar nose, kind of this this pinkish color around their eyes as well. And I just whited out those eyes. That way, today, when we do the dreaded eyes, we are ready to go. Now, if you look at pictures of Bengal tigers, they have a very kind of cold, icy eye to them. And to avoid the white and the blue, if the blue is too vibrant, just getting lost together, I am going to do a bit of a secondary layer in a darker blue. I'm trying to aim the camera a little lower so I don't paint off screen for half the time like I've been prone to do. So between that white, might not win here. Whenever you're working with dropper bottles, it's good to have a little like poker in case they want to gunk up on you, because squeezing it until it comes out is not a safe strategy, because you can end up with it all over your wet palette, hands, face, cat, who knows. Whatever's nearby can be a collateral damage very quickly. So we are going to work on the dreaded eyes of this cat. Luckily, these are a bit bigger than miniature eyes. As you can see, kind of brush tip, even like finger for scale. You're looking at probably 3 to 10 times larger than a lot of eyes that you'll be working on. But this working on bigger eyes allows us to learn some techniques that will be useful for smaller eyes. Now, cat eyes function in a very round capacity, much like human eyes. And depending on where we want him to be looking is where we place the center of the eye. Now, it strikes me that he is looking out and forward, kind of along with his blade. So I'm going to make some choices to kind of lay out this eye. Now, this is going to be fun because you might get to watch me fail a good bit on this part of the project. An important thing with eyes is keeping, I'm trying to paint off screen again, is trying to keep enough white around the outside, but not have that center of the eye be too small. So right now he feels like he's leaning maybe a little off to the side here. Let's hope I avoid making him a cross-eyed little tiger. As cute as that may be, I think my wife would have something to say about that. She always tends to find the little things that are silliest about my painting and point them out to me. And that is a very helpful thing, because sometimes we're our own worst critic, but sometimes we also give ourselves too much grace when we need to be a little stricter with how we do things. The blue seems to be, drop my brush, lined up about right for looking forward. As that blue is dried, I kind of want to come back through and make sure that white is reestablished on the side of that eye. There's going to be a little bit of back and forth here. I want to be careful I don't go too fast, I want to be working with dry paint, not with wet paint. Perhaps we'll see what happens if I work a little too fast here. Especially with whites, you're just going to get a really diluted version of what you're intending. A very, very bright version of what you're intending. There we go, that's not bad. And now I'm going to attempt maybe the harder part of all of this. Instead of just painting in like the framework of the eye like I've done here, I want to draw out this very light blue into thin strips. And over multiple layers, hopefully bring up the color of this eye to a much more vibrant color, much more vibrant blue. Starting to get a little more vibrant. Now the thinner you're working with paints, the thinner the lines, the more important that consistency is. I think as I'm working, if you can see, I got a bit of a star pattern going on with that eye. That eye got a little wild. So it's not out of our ability or out of our time to just go back over that other eye and reset. Get that dark blue back in there and reset. I think establishing with this dark blue, what it's gonna do for us is really make it so that it separates from the white. If I was to do this light blue right over the white, I don't think it would draw quite the same definite, well, let's call it blueness or contrast from the eye. So now that I know this like kind of 8-point star, so a cross with an X, is kind of what's going to give me the effect I want here. I'm just going to come over and do it on this eye as well. And it did poorly a second time. And a big portion of why I decided, you know what, this channel is going to be me painting in real time. I'm not going to skip massive steps. I mean, I'm going to skip things I'm repeating, because that's just not fun to watch me paint the same thing over and over and over again. Just like, let me paint this and then this the same way and then this. That's not necessarily the intent of this channel, but this is to show you that even when you're confident in your skills, sometimes you just don't nail it the first through 5th time. Sometimes you have to slow yourself down. Take a better look at it again. And not rush. Now we got more of that kind of starry-eyed look to him, which I like a lot. But we are going to now venture into the make or break waters of, can I put the black dot both round and centered in the eye to show where he's looking? Not shooting him off to the side so they're cross-eyed, or putting them together so he's, or whatever out is, but cross-eyed being in, but helping him to have a look very much straight forward up out of his. That's what we're going to do here. I think my goal here is actually not to use just the very tip of my brush, but get a little bit of a circle on there. I'm just going to hope to wiggle that circle out. Now, the other one, the one that's been giving me trouble. There it is. 2 eyes ready for adventure. Looking forward. But I forgot one minor thing that I think always helps with eyes. Here, I'll draw it on my wet palette first. When you've established kind of a circle, something that helps the eye seem wet and round is, I think it's something along the lines of like an ocular focus, like a refractory of light. And that's just taking a dot of white, I said a dot of white, and putting it on the corner of it like that. And what that does is it makes it look like there's a glimmer of light kind of being shown off the eye. And that helps us to read the eye as a bit wet. And this is one I want to make sure I don't overdo. But it's something just as small as that single white dot. Can add a ton to the model. Now, I chose the upper right to put that on, so I need to make sure it goes on the upper right on this side. And that one was a little brighter of a dot and a little higher and away. And now I have to debate which I like more. And the survey comes back and I choose the left eye. I like that bright dot up and away, so I need to black out this eye again. Just the iris in the middle. Whew. I'm not used to doing the painstaking work on camera. And then come back in. And catch that. I hope you can see the eye has a little bit of a life and glimmer to it now. I am going to end pretty soon on that idea. I wanted to kind of touch base and just do a quick eyeball, and in 10-15 minutes you can have 2 that look quite nice in my opinion. I might touch up some things around the eye, which is always nerve-wracking. But just as a reminder, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but if you buckle down and focus in, 10-15 minutes is not a lot for these nice kind of starry eyes almost. And when you paint smaller models, it might take you a few attempts. It might take you 5, 6, 10 attempts to get eyes that you think are passable. Many times when I paint smaller models, I avoid eyes like the plague. So don't be afraid to say, you know what, eyes don't matter, or throw helmets on all your models. If you're doing wargaming, no one's going to judge you for that. It's a tricky part of the process and of the painting process, but it can be enjoyable and a good way to push yourself. Well, thanks for tagging along. Always enjoy getting a chance to kind of talk through a different element with you guys. Feel free to leave a comment on what you want me to paint next. I do tend to try and look at all those and see if there's any sort of direction for me. I've got a few different things to do left. I'm planning on doing some sort of non-metallic metal, even just like a simple version of it for the blade here, for our little warrior. All right, and with that, we're going to close out for the day. Thank you so much, and if you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe. Have a good night.